Abraham Lincoln was born on February 12, 1809, in a one-room log cabin on the Sinking Spring Farm in Hardin County, Kentucky, which is now part of present-day LaRue County. His family was poor. His father, Thomas Lincoln, was a frontiersman and carpenter, and his mother, Nancy Hanks Lincoln, was known for her gentle spirit and intelligence. Abraham had an older sister named Sarah and a younger brother named Thomas, who died in infancy. The Lincolns lived a hard life on the frontier. They farmed the land, but the soil was not fertile, and life required constant effort. They had no electricity, no running water, and often not enough food. In 1816, when Abraham was just 7 years old, the family moved to Indiana. Thomas Lincoln had lost his land in Kentucky due to a dispute over ownership, and he sought a fresh start in the new state. The Lincolns traveled by ox cart and flatboat, settling in the wilderness of southern Indiana. Here, Abraham grew up surrounded by dense forests and wild animals. He helped his father clear land and plant crops. The work was difficult, and Abraham was tall and strong for his age. Tragedy struck the family in 1818 when Nancy Hanks Lincoln died of milk sickness, a disease caused by drinking milk from cows that had eaten poisonous plants. Abraham was just 9 years old. Her death left a hole in his heart, and life became even harder without a mother. A year later, Thomas Lincoln remarried a widow named Sarah Bush Johnston, who brought 3 children of her own into the family. Sarah was kind and affectionate, and she quickly formed a close bond with young Abraham. She encouraged his curiosity and love for reading, bringing books into the home and supporting his education as best she could. Abraham later said he owed much of his success to her. Although he only received about a year of formal schooling, Abraham was a voracious reader. He borrowed books from neighbors and read everything he could get his hands on. His favorites included the Bible, Aesop's Fables, Robinson Crusoe, and works by William Shakespeare. He would often walk for miles just to borrow a book. At night, he would read by the light of the fireplace. Abraham began to develop a deep understanding of language and storytelling. He also started writing and would often make notes and copy passages he liked. People in his community noticed his intelligence, kindness, and honesty. He earned the nickname Honest Abe, a name that would follow him throughout his life. As he grew older, Abraham took on various jobs. He worked as a rail splitter, splitting logs to make fences. He was also a store clerk, a postmaster, and a surveyor. Despite the hard labor, he continued to study and learn. In 1830, the Lincoln family moved again, this time to Illinois. In 1831, Abraham struck out on his own. He moved to the village of New Salem, Illinois, where he worked in a general store. The people of New Salem admired his storytelling abilities and strong moral compass. He gained a reputation for fairness, hard work, and good humor. In 1832, Abraham decided to run for the Illinois state legislature. He was just 23 years old and had no formal education or political connections. He lost the election, but the experience fueled his desire to serve the public. That same year, he served briefly in the Black Hawk War as a captain in the militia, although he did not see combat. Determined to improve himself, Abraham began studying law on his own. He read legal textbooks by candlelight and practiced writing legal arguments. In 1834, he ran for the Illinois legislature again and won. He served 4 terms over 8 years. During this time, he also became a successful lawyer and was admitted to the Illinois bar in 1836. In 1842, Abraham married Mary Todd, a well-educated woman from a prominent Kentucky family. Mary shared his interest in politics and supported his ambitions. Together, they had 4 sons, Robert, Edward, William, and Thomas, known as Tad. Only Robert lived to adulthood. The deaths of their other children brought great sorrow to the Lincolns. Abraham's legal career flourished. He became known as a skilled and honest lawyer. He traveled across the state on horseback, participating in the circuit court system. He argued hundreds of cases and developed a reputation for clear reasoning, fairness, and an ability to connect with juries. In 1846, Abraham was elected to the U.S. House of Representatives. During his single term, he spoke out against the Mexican-American War and slavery. His views were not popular, and he chose not to seek re-election. He returned to Illinois and resumed his law practice, but the issue of slavery would soon call him back into politics. By the 1850s, slavery had become the most divisive issue in American politics. Abraham believed slavery was morally wrong and should not expand into new territories. In 1854, he was outraged by the passage of the Kansas-Nebraska Act, which allowed states to decide for themselves whether to allow slavery. He re-entered politics and helped form the new Republican Party. In 1858, Abraham ran for the U.S. Senate against Stephen A. Douglas. The two men held a series of famous debates, where Abraham argued passionately against the spread of slavery. Although he lost the election, the debates brought him national fame. People across the country admired his clear logic and moral clarity. In 1860, Abraham Lincoln was nominated as the Republican candidate for president. His platform was to stop the expansion of slavery, protect the Union, and support economic development. He won the election in November 1860, becoming the 16th President of the United States. His victory alarmed Southern states, who feared he would abolish slavery. Before he even took office, 7 Southern states seceded from the Union and formed the Confederate States of America. By the time Abraham was inaugurated in March 1861, the nation was on the brink of civil war. He faced the greatest crisis any president had known. In April 1861, Confederate forces attacked Fort Sumter in South Carolina, and the Civil War began. Abraham Lincoln's primary goal was to preserve the Union. He believed the United States must remain one country. He mobilized the military, called for volunteers, and worked tirelessly with his generals and advisors to lead the war effort. During the war, he faced criticism from all sides. Some thought he was too harsh, others thought he was too soft. But Abraham stayed focused on his mission. He spent long hours in the White House, reading battle reports, writing letters to generals, and meeting with citizens. He also faced personal sorrow. In 1862, his son Willie died of illness. The loss nearly broke him, but he continued on. On January 1, 1863, Abraham issued the Emancipation Proclamation. It declared that all slaves in Confederate states were to be set free. Though it did not end slavery everywhere, it changed the character of the war. Now, the fight was not only to save the Union but also to end slavery. Thousands of African Americans joined the Union Army and fought for their freedom. In November 1863, Abraham delivered the Gettysburg Address at the site of one of the war's bloodiest battles. In just 272 words, he reminded Americans of the nation's founding principles: liberty, equality, and democracy. The speech is considered one of the greatest in American history. In 1864, Abraham was re-elected as president. The war was still raging, but victory was in sight. He spoke of healing and reconciliation, urging Americans to treat each other with kindness and justice. In his second inaugural address, he said, "With malice toward none, with charity for all, let us strive on to finish the work we are in." On April 9, 1865, the Confederate Army surrendered, and the Civil War came to an end. The nation rejoiced. Abraham had saved the Union and had taken great steps toward ending slavery. But just 5 days later, on April 14, 1865, tragedy struck. Abraham Lincoln went to see a play at Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C. During the performance, he was shot in the back of the head by John Wilkes Booth, a Confederate sympathizer. Abraham was taken to a nearby boarding house, where he died the next morning, April 15, 1865. The nation was devastated. People wept openly in the streets. His funeral train traveled through many states, allowing thousands to pay their respects. He was buried in Springfield, Illinois, the place he had called home for many years. Abraham Lincoln is remembered as one of America's greatest presidents. He rose from poverty and hardship to become a wise and compassionate leader. He believed in equality, justice, and the power of democracy. His words and actions changed the course of history and continue to inspire people around the world. His story teaches us that no matter where we come from, with determination, honesty, and courage, we can achieve greatness.